Lucia Carlsow's teacher here with the second part of this 9th episode on gravity, anti-gravity. I didn't say last time that why gravity and anti-gravity? Because it is a constant force. It is a force applied to every cell of our body, and sometimes we think of voice production, human motion as a body moving into the space, and a voice that is a body with a respiratory system, a part of air that the muscles, the body will push out, the vocal folds will close with the flow, and that's voice. And it's a little reductionist. We get specific because in common knowledge is starting being more refined, the thinking and the thought about us, about what really happens in us and how we control and we get to all those activities we love with sophistication, with articulation, with the goal we have in mind, starting from different contexts, different point of origin and development. And gravity is a good thing, because when you see the singers moving into the space, they're doing something very precise. And not to think of the weight, but to think of gravity is a great way to first being true for what reality is, because we change position, we are changing the angles of application into our muscles and structures and tendons and ligaments, and reactivity of the nervous system of this application of this force. Oh, it's exactly what we are doing. Start thinking that gravity is a force that will elicit a reaction, and we get more specific today than the last time on the posture, as I anticipated on Instagram. And the nice thing is that it is pretty convenient without changing the output of the nervous system we are activating, meaning we are in the mood perfect for the song, for the piece of music, for the context of musicians we have, for the public we are activating with us, because they play with us in some sort. It's not like when the public is not there, it's not exactly the same thing, and the quantity of the public and the quality of the public also changes a bit the things, and we get appropriate to all those things, to all those different we can call environment, but environment again is not specific enough, from the nervous system and brain activation, how can I say, output that we are putting, that we are giving, orders that we are giving, excitation of the system, balancing between the sympathetic and parasympathetic, because they activate together. That is the specific of human activities. They activate together. They are not one or the other. And if we want something more into the muscles, we can, yes, of course, change the nervous orders and the quantity of motor neurons that we are going to activate. But perhaps we are changing the energy, we are changing the character, we are changing some nuances that we don't want to change. And since we are quite refined and sophisticated, we change the positioning of the body into the space, so that gravity will activate something into our specific output. From a neuronal point of view, yeah, we get so sophisticated, of course. But when you see someone surfing, someone doing sports, when you see Cristiano Ronaldo, we get to that level of sophistication. That's our specific. So, what I anticipated on Instagram, the positioning that I showed you last time of Miley Cyrus as an evolution of her singing. And I asked her, is the curved version and the upright version something where we can choose in any moments, just because we want? And you answered me, mostly no, 60%, but a 40% yes. Then I asked, is one more physiological than the other? And the answers were split 50-50, completely. What we try to do here is to be specific and to see exactly what science says, what anatomy says, what biology says, what human motion says in this case, because human motion is something that we are starting to study. You will see there we put 3 little videos that are the cover of 3 books that have to do with human motion and how we study and how we treat it and how we acknowledge it. The first you will see when it has been published, and you will see the second that it changes quite a bit. Quite a bit meaning that it changes really a lot. The first, mostly neurological problems and developmental problems and few things on human motion. The second get really specific. And it appears also the quality of the movement for different purposes. The third is the one that I relate mostly because it is the functional point of view and the functional for sport usage, and since we get for voice production, for singing mostly with my clients and my specificity, it is where we develop those sophistication and articulation to refine the look and to refine the outcome that we want, because we want an outcome from a high skill point of view and getting higher. And this high skill point of view, it is getting, and as you see there, and as if you take the book, you will see by the little part that I will put here, and I hope they have nothing in contrast, since you can see the quality of the book and you can have the idea that it can be useful to take it, because as I said last time, muscles do the same, perform the same action, no matter, they don't know if it is for gravitational purposes, because you are changing your position, because you are dancing, because you are making a sport, or because you are singing. What is specific of us is the ratio and the positions and the sum of those muscles and the respiratory system. For us, this is getting very specific, but from the human motion point of view, the biomechanical point of view, you will see that there are many things, not only in common, they are exactly the same. We just have to translate into the specifics of singing when it is appropriate, or to understand the specifics of body when we lack those and they interfere into our voice production. So we get back to the posture. The Miley version is the same of Freddie Mercury, here are some photos, and some Italian tenors, especially Corelli and Caruso, as you see in the photos. So what it is the difference that you see and you can hear in the sound? And how many singers you can relate with this kind of posture? In what styles? If you comment and you write, I would be so happy to see, studies them also, say what I think about, if I agree, I don't agree, and there again getting more specific and an analysis, to analyze someone that you know specifically would be fine and fun also. If you're a singer, I ask you something, or a voice teacher, or a speech therapist, and eventually you sing also, because I know that many speech therapists or voice scientists love singing and love to get direct to that fantastic instrument, not only from their professional point of view, but also from the recreational point of view and creative point of view. What is it that you hear as a difference into the sound from what is the curbing toward the front, not only of previous Miley Cyrus, but also that Seth Riggs and many other vocal coaches preaches as something to do. Seth Riggs specifies when you cannot get to the high notes to have that curbing the back, or laying in front if you prefer, and add those two postures in contrast. And as I asked, add one more physiological than the other? The answer is no. They are both physiological. I don't agree with the vocal coaches saying that with the upright one, the straight one, you lose connection. Yes, it's true, you can lose connection, but just because one is a successive phase or stage of development of human motion, and it has some specific requirements that, if they are not fulfilled, you are making it not properly, so it gets dysfunctional. Which one of the two? There we have to, I come back to apaxial and hypaxial, as I said last time, because epaxial muscles, if you remember the other one in the back and related to the spine, and they stay in one fascia, are the muscles that are in our development stages the first we develop. We hypaxial and epaxial, as I said, those stages of development and evolution especially, they don't completely disappear, and if something doesn't go in the correct way, it will remain as a root of a later problem, and so sometimes we have to get back into this stage of development to solve it. And this is one of the strategies that very good practices I've found in the time, in the 20th century especially, as the Alexander technique. And the Alexander technique has to do with the epaxial muscles. And the epaxial muscles are important not only for us, but important for the mammals with 4 legs. I will put an article here. I will not read from it. I will tell you about it. You will have, if you want, you stop and you read the parts I've put in evidence, or you are going to the article directly. It's in open source, so you find it. Because it is a compared anatomy, and it is interesting to me because I quite know that those muscles are pretty important and central for what? For the protection and the shape of the spine. And the spine is the center of a part of our nervous central system and of the correct human structure, not only human, sorry, mammal structures and of the vertebrate animals, but in this case the comparative anatomy, what has found that the logic of functioning from deeper back muscles to more superficial back muscles remain pretty the same from mammals 4-legged to bipedal and to human motion, even if we have activities quite different from our cousins, we can say primates. The primates, yeah, they can bipedal, but they stay on the trees and they get suspended. So we have a difference there into the quantity of the fiber muscles, because the fiber muscles will tell which one is the function that mostly this muscle is performing. So I say that because if you see, the deeper muscles have in all the mammals and in humans, they are mostly slow fibrous muscles. This tells us that they are stabilizers, they are protective of the integrity of the spine, and of course when we were 4-legged, you can imagine that gravity acted in a how do we say that in English? I don't know. Orthogonal way, meaning really 90 degrees to the horizontal spine. And so those muscles are those maintaining the curved shape of the spine. And I get to something, a step forward that I slightly said, but today is the day in which we get deeper in that. Into the fascia, we have those spinal muscles, and those spinal muscles have the functions opposed, meaning agonist and antagonist. And this is really at the base of skeletal muscle function. I slightly said that. There it's quite important, and the article I put there also of Brett Contreras about the case of the rounded back for the deadlift. Yeah, rounded back, not straight back. If you work out, if you study, if you go to the gym, you know that it's the case since quite some years now of the maintenance of a flat back to protect your back. It is a must. No. It is a good advice, it's pretty correct, but if we want to be really correct and true, get to see Schwarzenegger, for example, is pretty rounded. Why? If we get back to joint by joint model, you will see that the thoracic segment wants to be mobile. We have the limbs. Mobile means that we have the limbs that wanted to move in different planes of motion. It doesn't mean that when it is stable it doesn't want to move, but it wants to move in a certain ratio and doesn't want to move into other plans of motion, as the knees, the torsion of the knees. You know, it's a very, very important injury, an important risk of injury for the knee. For your lumbar spine, we have all the abdominals that are anti-rotational. We have those dips stabilizers that are stabilizing, meaning that they don't want the spine to move too much. But not moving too much doesn't mean that it can't move in the sagittal plane. And the thoracic especially can move more than the lumbar segment. The cervical segment again doesn't want to move a lot, and we have plenty of muscles for that also. So what it means the case, why the case, what is the sense of the case for the rounded back? The rounded back permits to lift more weight, because as he explains quite well, get to the article, again it's free, so open source, so get to read it, because you can really understand the point that I'm doing and how we move and how we are structured to adapt to gravity and to the different positions and leverage of the gravity and of the vectors, the different vectors of the gravity in all our activities and positioning and plans of mobility. It's very clear. Brett Contreras is really huge and very clear. He makes the case because we said agonist and antagonist. Usually when you think an activity you want to do, usually you contract the agonist that shortens and performs the action that you want in shortening and moving the joints. Moving the joints, the antagonist will be elongated by the movement of the joints. In a functional system, this elongation at the center point will be the contraction of the muscle that elongates, so to control that the action of the agonist is not going to be and imagine without a break to stop it at a certain point and to control the refinement of the movement. What it is that gives this activation? They are the ligaments into the joint. And if the ligaments are functional and not too, and they don't have a laxity, for example, that is one of the things that makes women more prone to injuries of the ACL, anterior cruciate ligament of the knee, when they play at soccer, because looks like there is a gender specificity into the laxity of the ligaments or the structure of the ligaments that we can't overcome because it's gender specific, hormone specific, and probably also tissue specific of the action of the hormones on the women body. This activation, it's the position of the joints that some ligaments, as we said last time and some other times, tell the brains, yeah, now you have to brake and to control. What we know by training is that this system becomes very sophisticated in controlling the movement and the load and the speed and the specific positions and the specificities of our sports, our art, dance, or singing or playing an instrument. It becomes, because it's not the same thing when we start and there is disuse or untrained or bad habits or some injury, and when the system is trained or healed or corrected. And we see that now we can correct, heal, regenerate, even in ways that we really did not think possible. Yeah, we get sophisticated and very refined. It's fantastic. So, getting back, the case of the... If we do always just the action with the shortening, we lose something that is very specific of the act of the elongation of the muscle and the contraction, that is called the eccentric force. The eccentric force is the force, is the characteristic, we can say, of the contraction of the muscle that presents the highest degree of force of the muscle. Yeah, the highest degree. One muscle is the exception, as says Brett Contreras, as I learned from him, that is the gluteus maximus. The gluteus maximus is the strongest. Shortened.